feel so grateful for the women around me. I don't think it's always encouraged for women to be ambitious. And ambition is something that I've really come to embrace in the last few years. And I love that my kids get to see that too as a positive example.
Welcome to Career Mama Stories, where we talk to moms who not only have one career, they have two, raising their children and doing the work that they love. Enjoy.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here. My name is Ryan Gregory, and I live just outside of Portland, Oregon, not too far from you, Lisa. And I live with my husband, who is a stay-at-home dad and also a teacher in special education. And my two daughters, they are Edie and Maxine. And Maxine will be 6 next week, and Edie just turned 8. And we also have two dogs, two senior rescue dogs, and it just so happens that both of them are deaf. So that adds an extra layer of adventure when we're out and about. And I have been a freelance writer since 2008. And have been doing that ever since. I write for magazines, and I've written 3 books. And most of my work these days is for Microsoft Philanthropies, talking about how technology can accelerate social impact. But my real passion is in family travel and helping families make memory through travel with a lot less stress. And so I have a blog and social media to help with that. I think, like everybody, the start of the pandemic was totally overwhelming and really nerve-wracking, and just being thrown into the situation that we have never even thought about before or even like imagined preparing for. So we were on vacation shortly before lockdown started. So we came back, and then we're basically thrown into, okay, school's shutting down, no one go anywhere. So it was quite an abrupt transition. It was the kids went home from spring break and then never went back to school. So that was really challenging on everybody. And I have very energetic and spirited children. So it was an interesting challenge to keep them occupied and not bouncing off the walls, but still keeping our family safe. And my husband took on doing the kids' schooling. So he was the point person for doing virtual school. And then I transitioned fully to working at home. I'm freelance, so I can work from anywhere, but I work in a co-working space in my own private office most of the time. So I'm just much more productive here. So I ended up transitioning to home, which was yet another transition.
Absolutely. So many of us found ourselves in that situation. So your older daughter was in elementary school, is that accurate? And then your younger one, was she like in preschool at that point?
Yeah. She was in preschool. So our local public school has a preschool program in addition to, the K through 5. And so my younger daughter was in a preschool program there, and my older daughter was in first grade. And so Edie, my older daughter, ended up going online, so it was a bumpy transition, I think, for everyone, including the teachers in the school district. So it was sort of this mad dash to get resources and classes transitioned to online. And then my younger daughter, I think they ended up doing some like preschool Zoom sessions, but preschoolers aren't terribly adept at Zoom conversations. And so we just ended up supplementing with her doing some of our own activities at home, and really just focusing on making sure that they felt safe and secure and had their questions answered, and knew that they were surrounded by people who loved them. That was, even more than academics or, practicing your letters or learning how to write exposition. That was our priority.
Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden you were thrust into a situation where you had no childcare support and no one that could even come over, probably, right? If you needed like a babysitter for an hour, it just wasn't an option. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. So my parents live nearby. They live about 2 hours south of me. And, we used to see them like pretty often all the time. And in a pinch, I could call my mom and she'd come up for a night. And then my in-laws live in an RV full time. And so they often will come and stay nearby us and spend, 3 days a week with us or so. And like many people, that was not an option anymore, especially with our parents being in the more vulnerable populations. And same with babysitters. We couldn't call the neighbor down the street to watch the kids for an hour. We couldn't call up, our high school babysitter anymore. So it was all the time together in the house, in our, our four walls.
Yep. I feel you for sure. My mom literally showed up on our doorstep right before COVID. And so she moved in with us while we had moved houses a month prior. So we didn't know our neighborhood. We didn't know our neighbors. And then my mom, all of a sudden, who's in a vulnerable population as well, was living with us, but she is not able to be independent with my daughter. So she became an extra layer of caregiving for us. So completely feel you there. We're just no options. And there were no date nights, right? Once in a while, I'd be like, hey, could you guys watch a movie? We're just gonna be on the back porch talking because we need to have a conversation.
Absolutely. My husband and I eventually ended up making a bit of a Saturday night tradition. Like we would send the kids downstairs to watch a movie, and he and I would like talk about the upcoming week and just like logistics and everything, but also like have dinner together and actually talk. It was a very nice novelty.
That's great. It's so important to put the relationship first too, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So many strains. Okay. So your experience during lockdown was definitely challenging. Tell me a little more about your family travel brand. Obviously that was a huge hit. And where were you at with the business? And maybe even tell me kind of the journey through pandemic into where you're at now.
Yeah. I just have to laugh, trying to grow a family travel brand when literally no one can travel. I was just about ready to launch a pretty comprehensive family travel course. And much of the course focused on how to find cheap tickets, like how to go on a plane with your kid, like how to go on a vacation that fits your budget. A lot of it was around plane travel, which no one could do, even if they wanted to. So that was, it was pretty tough, like both mentally and then also in terms of the business. And my husband and I were gearing up to transition more of my work and build up the income coming in from the family travel brand. We were sort of gearing up for that, and we had to put that on hold and kind of rethink what our plans were. And then in April, I had been paying a close attention to what my friends were saying about what they were struggling with, and folks on social media and in my network, and of course me. And that gave me an idea for a bit of a pivot with my business. And I hate using the word pivot now because it's just so tired at this point.
I'm the same way. When I quit my job during the pandemic, I was like, don't ever use the word pivot. And I find myself doing it too, because I'm like, oh, there needs to be a new word.
Yeah. We need to figure out some like COVID slang for it. But I ended up transitioning my focus to virtual travel for families, because so many of us felt like we wanted to not feel trapped inside our homes. And I definitely did. And I also wanted to come up with new ways of doing fun things with my kids that didn't involve looking at a screen. And so I ended up writing a book called Virtual Travel Activities for Kids, which was all about sort of no prep, easy ways to learn about places around the world and sort of like explore around the world using activities that incorporated education. So things like math or engineering or geography or writing or, whatever it might be, but sort of like sneaky because they were really fun. So I shifted focus to that And that was like really fun. And I had never written a book before. I've been a writer for years and years and years, but it was a really cool experience to transition those skills into writing a book and do something that I hadn't ever done before.
That's awesome. Writing a book is, now I can see why everyone wants to do it. It's so fulfilling. Did you work with an illustrator? Do you?
No, I didn't. So I ended up making some icons for the book. So it wasn't a picture book like yours.
Mhm.
And then I actually did work with a cover designer, but I was very unhappy with how it turned out.
Okay.
So at the very last minute, I ended up designing the cover myself, and have designed the covers for my other two books since then. But I'm looking into writing some children's books right now, and I'm very curious about the experience of working with an illustrator.
Yeah, I'm thinking about putting a little more of my story about that out there too. So I'll let you know when I have some content you can check out, and be happy, when we can meet in person, we can chat about that. That would be so much fun.
I love that.
So much fun. And I learned a ton, I'm sure, as you experienced with everything we did this past year.
Oh yeah.
I learned so much.
We can compare notes.
Yes, absolutely. I love what you put in here about your husband kind of forcing the issue of going outside. We did good at that at the beginning, and I think that was more me. We did not sustain it. We're trying to get back on track. So tell me a little bit about those special moments of what time of day did you take walks, and your dogs are deaf, so I'm sure that makes walks even more interesting.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, my husband was really phenomenal at making sure that we all got out of the house, and being outside is one really important part of my own self-care that helps mental health. And unlike a lot of people, my other self-care practices, the other things that helped boost my mental health weren't available to me anymore. And so on the days when I felt down, like I wouldn't want to go outside necessarily, or I wouldn't have taken that initiative myself, but my husband, like you said, sort of made it happen, and we would all go out for walks. So they were generally in the evening, so after I finished up with work, and we would walk around our neighborhood, or we would go to the trails nearby our house, and just getting out and moving our bodies and being in the fresh air or in the rain. We even went out in the rain. My kids would pull on their like rain suits, and we would get an umbrella or just the rain boots or whatever, and we'd go out. And having the dogs was actually a good way to force the issue, because dogs need to go outside. Like they need to be walked, and that made sure that we were always getting out too.
That's great. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, Catherine, can you tell me, first of all, just kind of your initial reaction to the illustrations? Do they resonate with you as a mom, especially a mom of daughters?
Yes, 100%. I was thinking about, which one might resonate with me. And the truth is that all of them do. They all feel very close to home, like the kids like peeking over your shoulder, or like saying hi on Zoom calls, or, like number 6, like working into the night or really early morning. I developed a routine of getting up at 5 to work before my kids got up. But I think the one that feels like closest to me is number 2. Getting in bed with the kids and reading books, and sometimes feeling almost like you're about to doze off yourself. But I read to my kids every night, and they take turns picking their books. And we read to them throughout a lot of their meals too, because I'm not really big on the whole like food and eating and survival thing. So we've developed the tactic of reading to them, which they really enjoy, and it keeps them at the table. So that was really a good touch point for me. But also, like in that picture with like the mom's almost like leaning on her daughter, and I definitely felt like my own kiddos were like an inspiration and sort of a source of strength for me. And whenever I was having a hard time or whenever I was really struggling, they would come up with something goofy, or they would show me a new like dance routine that they had made up, or whatever it might be, to really cheer me up, even without meaning to. So that I just feel so fortunate and lucky to be their mom, and to have them in my life. They're really cool humans.
Here, I'll stop sharing. That's a great little segue into another question I have. So you are a mom, a strong mom, setting an example as a career mama for your daughters, and they're seeing you working and seeing you build something that you're passionate about. And what is it that you, like a big takeaway you would like for them to have from seeing you do all those things? What is
Yeah,
it? What are your goals?
that's such a good question. First of all, I try to really emphasize the positive of working. I don't say I have to go work. Well, sometimes I do, but I try not to. I try to say I get to go work. And I talk to them a lot about the fun things that I like about working. And also, I try to make whatever they're learning about relevant to what I do for work. So when my older daughter was struggling with the editing process, like she didn't like to edit anything that she had written. She just wanted to write it and go. And so, I would bring home my own like red markered documents, or show her how, I had gone through 4 different iterations before coming to the point of having something ready. But really what I want them to take away and to absorb is that they don't have to settle for work. It does not have to be something that, it doesn't have to be a grind. It doesn't have to be something that they just put in their 8 hours and sort of live for the end of the day or live for the weekend. I think that's unfortunately a lot of messaging that we get from, conversations or from, movies or whatever it might be. I want them to know that work can be really rewarding, and it can feel authentic to who you are. And that's how you know when you found a job that's the right fit.
Awesome. Well, I think I put this in some of my emails too, but women empowering women begins at home. And so I just want to say thank you, Catherine, for everything you're doing to raise this next generation. I say the next generation of superheroes, right? Because they're going to have to take that baton and keep going with it. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. That is the reason I have this passion project, and why I wanted to meet with you is just to get your story out there and hopefully help inspire other moms. Women empowering women, it seems like a catchphrase. It seems like everyone's doing it, but in my personal experience, we can't take that for granted. There are a lot of moms that maybe disempower their children, and there's coworkers that might, be gossiping about other women. And so I have seen in my personal experience that we should just not take that for granted. I don't know if you have any experience to that end as well that you'd like to talk about.
I mean, I, again, feel so grateful for the women around me. I don't think it's always encouraged for women to be ambitious. And ambition is something that I've really come to embrace in the last few years. And I love that my kids get to see that too as a positive example. And so I've been really, really lucky being surrounded by a lot of other moms who are also entrepreneurs or small business owners, or, working outside the home moms. And we cheerlead each other, and, we hear each other vent and, we give each other ideas, and, we talk through our latest project. It's been incredible to have this network around me of, I sort of call them my business whisperers.
Like
it's like the dog whisperer, except for my business, like just people who get it, really get it. And so I'm trying to consciously surround myself by other women who get it, who can be positive and can, we can empower each other, like you said, instead of people who might want to tear me down or tear each other down.
Mm-hmm. And I find too, a lot of times it's just subconscious or they're trying to boost themselves, right? And so that's where it may come from. But that's fabulous. That's good advice too for other maybe new moms or women trying to start their own business, especially after COVID. A lot of women have pivoted, transitioned. Sorry.
There's that word again.
I know, I need to like snap my rubber band on my wrist or something.
Well,
Okay.
thanks, Lisa. This has been really a lot of fun.
Oh, good. Thank you, Catherine, so much. I can't wait to get your story out there and help promote you and meet you and learn more. Let's stay
Okay.
connected, please.
Yeah, I think we can definitely compare notes on some things.
Yes. I love it.
Well, I can't wait to promote everything when it comes out and share your message too.
Thank you. Sounds great. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Lisa.
Pandemic just took us all for a loop and thinking, okay, well, this will give me time to reset or time to do this. And then the time just went, no, there's no time. I was thinking there would be.
Yeah, I remember my mom at one point was like, I'm so bored. And I was like, people like, I'm getting all these new hobbies. Like I'm learning how to bake sourdough bread and like knit. And I'm like,
yes, I know. So I can relate to that for sure.